In the elegant sitting room of the Ding family, the blonde girl sipped her tea and politely suggested that Ding attend to the commotion outside. He smiled confidently. To him, it was nothing more than the work of a petty thief. His older brother, Ding Yi, would handle it easily, or so he believed. In the dungeon, Patriarch Ding Yi seethed with anger as he struggled to maintain order. He scolded a guard for his sluggishness and ordered him to charge directly at the overlord. Seeing Yun streak by, he quickly commanded his fastest rogues and archers to abandon the boss and pursue the intruder at all costs. However, their efforts were in vain. Yun's speed was simply overwhelming. Half of Yun's attribute points were invested in agility. With his reversed acceleration aura, he moved like lightning. Only specialized level 30 rogues or archers stood a chance of catching him. He dashed past them and entered the main chamber, where the skeletal overlord stood battered and on the verge of collapse. Guards struggled to contain it using sealing spells. Their formation faltered under the strain. Yun's lips curled into a smile. His plan had succeeded. The boss was at its most vulnerable. A surge of purple energy enveloped him as he charged in to deliver a decisive blow. Guards spotted him and shouted warnings as they scrambled to intercept him. Before they could mount a proper defense, Yun unleashed a flurry of chaotic thorns. Purple vines burst from the ground. They lashed wildly in every direction. The guards staggered, completely unprepared for this strange skill. Confusion spread as a mage, caught up in the chaos, unleashed a powerful spell on a fellow guard, throwing their ranks into disarray. Others recoiled in shock, struggling to comprehend the unfolding events. The skill's success rate was astonishingly high. Yun surged forward as the chaotic guards began to turn on one another. Their defenses crumbled, creating a clear path directly to the vulnerable overlord. Panic erupted as their formations disintegrated. Their shields proved ineffective, and their crowd control collapsed. Accidental strikes cut through their allies. Yun watched their chaos with a sense of cold detachment. These guards lacked discipline. Years of peace had softened them, and now their weakness would lead to their downfall. A guard captain attempted to motivate his men, asserting that if they could corner the intruder, he would be finished. At that moment, First Patriarch Ding Yi arrived. He commanded his men to hold Yun. The level 42 warrior, clad in fiery gear, declared that he would handle the intruder personally. With his blazing weapon, he leapt, ready to unleash a devastating attack on Yun. Yun watched the Patriarch approach. With a dismissive sound, he chose to confront the attack directly. He took out the level 60 combat chains he had stolen. Although he couldn't fully equip them due to their low level, he recognized their immense durability. As Ding Yi's fiery attack came down, Yun used the chains as a makeshift shield. Successfully absorbing the full force of the powerful blasts, Yun cleverly turned Ding Yi's attack to his advantage. Rather than merely blocking the fiery blast, he harnessed its tremendous force to propel himself backward like a cannonball, shattering the magical seal that the guards had tried to maintain around their boss. He landed gracefully in front of the crippled dungeon lord. With a final taunt, he playfully thanked the furious Patriarch for the ride. Before the guards could react, Yun announced that he would steal the overlord's experience. He delivered a decisive finishing blow, striking the weakened beast and ending its life. The payoff was immediate and substantial. Yun instantly gained an impressive 3 levels. Reaching level 20 grants you 9 new attribute points. Most importantly, the Dungeon Lord's vast experience fully unlocked his hidden skill, Mirror World. A system notification confirmed that the skill had been upgraded, finally achieving the coveted level as well. Seething with rage after having his kill stolen, the First Patriarch, Ding Yi, screamed. In a fit of rage, he charged at Yun with his fiery axe. Following his lead, the other guards rushed forward, intent on capturing the audacious intruder. Yuncho stood calmly before the massive corpse of the dungeon lord, unafraid. He concentrated on his rewards, particularly the new power his ultimate skill had acquired at level 2. Just as Ding Yi's powerful attack was about to land, it harmlessly passed through a shimmering image of Yun, who then vanished. The guards halted, bewildered by his abrupt disappearance. Yun found himself in an entirely new environment. The world had transformed into a silent crystal blue-green version of the dungeon. He activated a new ability of his hidden skill, Mirror World. In this strange dimension, he observed ghostly, translucent versions of Ding Yi and the other guards, oblivious to his presence. A timer indicated that his mirror walk would last nearly 30 minutes. He felt a surge of excitement as he realized he could now step into that very world. Yun began to harness his newfound power. He realized that everything was a flawless reflection of the real world, flipped from left to right. Initially, he believed the ghostly figures of the guards were mere illusions, especially when his hand passed right through one. However, when he touched the crystal-like ground, he discovered it was solid. He realized that this place was more than just an illusion. His exploration resulted in an incredible discovery. He picked up a solid crystal fragment from the ground, accompanied by a message indicating that he had found a mirror shard that could be transported from this world into the real one. This was significant for Yun. He realized that with his Mirror World skill now at level 2, he could transfer real objects from that other world into his own. Curious about what else has changed with the skills upgrade, he checked his system screen and noticed a completely different list of skills, featuring several powerful reversed abilities such as invisibility and a force field cage. However, most of them were marked as not activated, which confused him. A message briefly clarified that these skills were intended for foundational skills that had not yet been acquired. He then grasped the full extent of his new ability. The list displayed the reversed versions of all the skills he could acquire. He now understood that to harness any of these powerful abilities, he first needed to discover and master their normal versions in reality. The skill reversal he employed at level 1 was merely a basic aspect of his ability's true potential. As he reviewed the thrilling list of future powers, he realized that everything had changed. He could now select strong skill pairs and map out his entire class path in advance, fully aware of the powerful reversed forms he would acquire. While Yun contemplated the full potential of his new skill, he suddenly sensed something behind him. Turning, he noticed a faint blue-green human figure drifting aimlessly in the clear air. He wondered if it was a soul. He was intrigued by the notion of being trapped before returning to life. He inquired whether other souls were also present in this peculiar world. Without warning, the tranquil figure erupted with green energy, transforming into a screaming skeletal undead creature that lunged at him. Startled, Yun drew his glowing blade and prepared for battle. He countered the creature's attack and with a single swing, effortlessly shattered the undead being, noting that it didn't appear very strong. Just as he completed the creature, a new message appeared, capturing his attention. The system presented him with an undead contract, explaining that he could strike a deal with the soul he had just defeated. This agreement would allow the soul to escape the mirror world and fight alongside him in the real world. Additionally, the contract stipulated that the soul's highest level would always match his name, and he could hold up to 20 such contracts. This unexpected event prompted Yun to reflect on the potential of his new power. He realized that after defeating an undead creature in the mirror world, he could negotiate with its soul and summon it into reality as a formidable ally. Holding the mirror shard he had created, he realized his ability extended beyond mere objects like stones. The level 2 upgrade to the mirror world was a true game changer, allowing him to summon not only items, but also an army of undead from the mirror world into reality. Gazing at the vast crystal landscape brimming with possibilities, he found the idea intriguing. In the real world, chaos reigned. With its lord defeated, The private dungeon had disappeared, leaving a bewildered army of guards. They were at a loss to understand where the intruder had vanished. One captain anxiously inquired how he had vanished, speculating whether it was due to a high-level rogue stealth skill. A rogue expert quickly responded with a firm no, clarifying that their stealth had distinct limitations and could not render someone completely invisible. The absence of answers infuriated another captain, who seized the rogue and demanded to know how the intruder had managed to escape with so many of them present. The first patriarch, Ding Yi, was even more furious. After losing his valuable private dungeon, he vented his frustration on one of his men, gripping the man's face and shouting that if they couldn't identify the culprit, they would have to compensate him for the loss. Meanwhile, Yuna's time in the mirror world was coming to an end. As his mirror walk timer ticked down, he pondered where he would reappear. Would he return to his original location, or were there different rules for exiting the mirror world? He received his answer moments later when he reappeared in the real world at the exact spot where he had vanished. The furious Ding Yi noticed him immediately and, without hesitation, shouted for his men to capture him. Confronted by the new assault from the Ding family's fighters, Yun remained completely composed. He raised a hand, a swirling green light emanating from it, and urged them not to rush. He declared that after enduring their relentless attacks for so long, it was finally his turn to retaliate. With that, he unleashed the power he had just acquired from the mirror world. A surge of eerie skeletal warriors erupted, creating a terrifying undead army that charged toward the stunned guards. The guards responded with sheer terror, their attacks faltering as they questioned the nature of the ghostly figures, wondering if they were indeed real ghosts. The first patriarch, Ding Yi, attempted to soothe the rising fear among his men. He shouted for them not to panic, insisting that the creatures were merely undead monsters he had encountered numerous times before. One of the guards prepared for a tough battle against a skeletal warrior. To his surprise, a health bar appeared above the creature. It was an undead skeleton warrior, and it was level 20, just like Yun. Despite this, the fear was palpable. Ding Yi's face contorted with anger at his men's ongoing hesitation. 2. He encouraged them to fight by promising a bonus to everyone who attacked and captured the intruder. The prospect of a reward seemed to rekindle their bravery. As the guards shifted their focus from the undead army back to Yun, they discovered he had vanished. Confused, they scanned their surroundings, pondering where he might have gone. Using his newly summoned undead as a distraction, Yun observed the battle from a safe distance. He assessed that his current army was still too weak to be truly effective. He realized that if he could locate and negotiate with stronger souls, the disorganized guards would have posed no challenge to him. However, he was constrained by his available options. He had already struck deals with the 20 strongest souls he could find in the limited area he had explored within the mirror world. He also discovered that his exploration of the mirror world wasn't limitless. He had encountered a barrier that confined him to within 200 meters of his entry point. This realization led him to understand that to discover better undead, he would need to access the mirror world from various locations in the future. His planning was abruptly interrupted when he spotted his friend Xiao Ji, who had been serving as a distraction, hiding in the woods. One of the guards sneered at the disguised boy, mocking him about the reward he would receive for capturing him. Without hesitation, Yun sprang from the shadows, swiftly and accurately taking down the guards who threatened his friend. With their path clear, he seized the stunned Xiaoji and informed him that they were leaving. Surveying the chaos he had unleashed, with his undead army preoccupying the remaining guards, Yun concluded that their task was complete. It was time to retreat, distance himself from the danger, and thoroughly examine the spoils from his daring raid. As Yun and Ziwei made their escape, the remaining guards of the Ding family battled the undead army. The guards launched a fierce assault on the skeletal warriors, shattering their bones. A guard leader observed that the creatures were not particularly strong. However, their relief was short-lived. To their dismay, a defeated skeleton would immediately reassemble, unscathed. They continued to fight, only for skeletons to rise again and again. Finally, just as the guard spirits began to falter, Ding Gay, the formidable level 52 third head of the Ding family, appeared, calmly smoking a cigarette. He recognized that the skeletons were summoned creatures and that their revival relied on their summoner's magic. With a confident smile, he concluded that they simply needed to eliminate the skeletons until their master exhausted his energy. Sometime after the chaotic attack, the old master, the formidable head of the family with a long white beard, returned. He promptly inquired whether their esteemed guest, Miss Yun Sha, had departed. Inside, his son, Ding Hao, bowed respectfully, apologizing for not being able to keep her there. He explained that the intruder had been astonishingly bold, causing a disturbance by shouting and even breaking a window, which frightened their guest away. The old master, the formidable level 57 Ding Dan, son of the hero Ding Queen, was furious. He scolded his son for the total security failure, expressing his outrage that an intruder had entered and escaped without being identified. Dinga lowered his head in shame, accepting full responsibility. However, Ding Hao shared some good news. Despite the chaos, Miss Yunsha agreed to visit the hero's dungeon, which meant that the situation regarding hero Ding Queen was still salvageable. However, this did little to soothe the enraged patriarch. Ding Yi vowed that the culprits would be relentlessly pursued and eliminated without mercy. He then impatiently instructed his son to quickly check what else had been taken. Far from the chaos, Yun examined his gains. He retrieved the temporary dungeon access permit he had stolen, which bore Xiaoji's name. He now had the pass, his primary objective, but he still required an escort to enter the hero's dungeon. He chose not to rush into solving this problem and instead evaluated the rest of his loot. The raid on the Ding family house had proven to be quite profitable, raising his level to 20. His chimera bone ring was nearly shattered after deflecting the teacher's attack, but he had successfully stolen more than 10 valuable skill books. Among these skills were chance abilities, primarily of the support type. One of them was the battle song Chant, which increased critical hit rate and damage while lowering defense. Yun quickly considered its reversed form, the shield song Chant, which would have the opposite effect. Excitement surged within him as he realized that by mastering and then reversing these support skills, he could significantly enhance his stats. With those boosts and his new passive ability that increased strength, he felt confident he could overpower any opponent of equal level through sheer raw attributes. In addition to the books, the Dungeon Lord had dropped a rare level 30 item, Corrupted Knight's Armor, which would prove useful later. However, above all the equipment, levels, and skills, one achievement stood out. His hidden ability, Mirror World, had finally leveled up to 2. Reflecting on his new abilities, Yun acknowledged that his necromantic summons had significantly enhanced his combat strength. However, he realized it wasn't sufficient. Recalling the statue of hero Ding Queen, he assessed that his opponent was at least an S-rank berserker. To have any chance of victory, Yun determined he needed to reach at least level 50 and, crucially, contract an S-rank necromantic spirit. Later, once they were safely away from the Ding compound, Xiaoji, still shaken, anxiously asked if they would be followed. Yun reassured him, stating that they had evaded their pursuers and were safe, as their faces had not been seen. Despite this, Xiaoji felt a lingering sense of unease. Yun quietly observed how challenging the entire ordeal must have been for him. Realizing that his current undead army was far too weak, he made a decision. He asked Xiaoji if there were any nearby dungeons where a powerful individual had once perished. Xiao appeared confused, so Yun explained that he needed a higher-level dungeon to level up quickly and that the powerful person was for something he would disclose later. After a moment of hesitation, Xiao confirmed that such a place existed. However, he cautioned that it was the school's private dungeon, making it nearly impossible to sneak in. Yun paused, contemplating the challenge of a heavily guarded dungeon, yet he remained resolute. If conventional entry was out of the question, he would resort to unconventional methods. To execute his plan, Yun approached his class teacher. He offered a rare, purple-quality Wanderer skill book stolen from the Ding family as a bribe. The teacher, taken aback, quickly assumed that Yun had significant support and became much more cooperative. Although he acknowledged that dungeon access was typically restricted, he explained that there was a loophole. The school dungeon opened for graduating students. Yun wasn't qualified, but a teacher could recommend an exceptional student. Persuaded by the bribe and Yun's potential, he promised to secure him a spot. The plan succeeded, and Yun joined the students preparing to enter the school's valiant dungeon. Some students appeared grim, resolute in making the most of their opportunity, while others were flattering and eager. One quietly remarked that it might be his last chance to advance. Meanwhile, another person expressed their gratitude to the hero with a loud thank you. As Yun stepped through the glowing portal, a strange unease washed over him. There was something unsettling about this dungeon. The teacher excitedly explained that this dungeon was the site of the hero's battles, and remnants of his power might still linger within. Nearby, Chao listened quietly, his expression serious. I realized with horror that the Valiant Dungeon was the very place where, according to the Empire's distorted history, Hero Ding Quen had bravely slain his great-grandfather. The so-called traitor Chaoan hesitated as he grappled with the dark truth. He struggled internally, uncertain whether to disclose to Yun what he knew about the dungeon's true history. At the entrance, students gathered with anticipation. The teacher issued one final warning. This was a high-level dungeon, and they needed to be cautious not to exceed their limits. He then pointed out a red-haired student in armor, Little Z, and instructed him to watch over Yun and Chao Ji. Little Z's expression darkened as he grumbled about being unable to focus on leveling while having to babysit. Another student pushed him forward, telling him to stop complaining since the dungeon was already open, grumbling about how unfair it was that younger students were even permitted to enter. Little Z walked in with the others, his annoyance clearly evident. He barked at Yun and Chao Ji to stay back and not cause any trouble, warning that he would abandon them if they became a burden. Inside, the expansive dungeon shimmered with an eerie purple light. Yun quietly surveyed his surroundings. It was said to be a level 20 to 40 dungeon. Yet his instincts from a past life warned him otherwise. A suffocating unease enveloped him, as if a threat far greater than its apparent difficulty lay hidden beneath the surface. As the students progressed through the illuminated corridors, Yun spotted some familiar faces. Yun Yen and her blonde friend Yun Sha were already inside. He frowned, questioning how such young students were allowed. Little Z noticed them as well, nudging another armored boy and pointing them out. The student quickly started to daydream out loud about accompanying the two beautiful girls. His fantasy was abruptly interrupted when a taller, serious boy in a helmet hit him, instructing him to stop being ridiculous. The older student bluntly explained that Yunin and Yun Sha were already much stronger, both above level 30. He scoffed, suggesting that if anything, they should be asking those girls for assistance. The embarrassed boy mumbled that he was just trying to talk. Despite the playful teasing, the two girls completely ignored the older students. To everyone's surprise, Yun Sha and Yun In walked directly toward Yun and Xiao Ji. Yun tensed, feeling uncertain. He recalled Yun Sha as the esteemed guest at the Ding residence. Her straightforward demeanor instantly aroused his suspicion. Did she know something about the original owner of his body, or was she present because of Ding Shu, whom he had publicly humiliated? Yun Sha maintained a calm and friendly expression. With a confident smile, she told Yun that she had seen him at the memorial hall, complimenting his fighting skills and noting that his voice was distinctive. Yun stayed cautious, uncertain of her intentions, until her golden eyes flickered. She leaned in closer, whispering softly so only he could hear. She confessed that she had recognized his voice from the sound of blast shattering as he escaped the Ding family mansion, Yun's. His mind reeled. He was astonished that she had deduced his identity from just 2 brief encounters. Alarm surged within him, but before he could react, Yun Sha's outfit changed, morphing into white mage-style combat gear. Beside her, Yun Yin's outfit transformed into a dark green energy suit. In a calm tone, Yun Sha informed the still-stunned Yun that they would explore the dungeon first. She then turned and walked away with her friend, leaving him lost in thought. As they vanished into the glowing passage, Yun's mind began to race. She had recognized him, but opted not to reveal his identity publicly. Her words and actions conveyed a subtle message. I know who you are. Was it a quiet warning? The thought unsettled him. If Yun Sha could recognize his voice, could Ding Shu do the same after their earlier confrontation? Though he found the thought unsettling, Yun compelled himself to relax. He reasoned that as long as the Ding family did not take any immediate action, his swift leveling would soon propel him well beyond their grasp. Noticing her friendly demeanor, he chose to return the gesture with a warning. He called out, warning them to be cautious, as his instincts suggested that the dungeon felt unusually perilous. Yun Sha paused and appeared to agree, telling her friend that the place felt strange. She reflected that, considering her high rank, the dungeon shouldn't feel so unsettling. With a final knowing smile at Yun, she thanked him for the warning before continuing on with Yunan. The brief, friendly exchange between Yun and the senior girls did not go unnoticed. The older students observed in disbelief, gossiping about why the typically aloof Yun Sha seemed so familiar with them. Fueled by jealousy, they surrounded Yun, inquiring about his relationship with her and insisting on an introduction. Not interested, Yun interrupted their questions, stating that he and Xiao would be leaving the group to explore on their own. The older students were taken aback by his overconfidence, cautioning him that, as younger students, the level 20 monsters would undoubtedly be lethal for them. To their surprise, their supervisor, Little Z, instructed them to let the 2 go. He reasoned that for Yun to be friendly with someone as powerful as himself, his own status must be elevated. When others protested, reminding him of their teacher's instructions, Little Z's true motive emerged in his thoughts, as he forcefully reminded his friends of their real reason for seeking the precious crystals. He didn't want to share the loot, so allowing them to wander off was ideal. He coldly concluded his decision by telling the group to disregard them, reasoning that they had distress signal guns if necessary. As Yun and Chao Ji walked away, he watched them with a mix of anger and jealousy. He couldn't comprehend why an ordinary kid had captured Yun's attention. His envy transformed into a dark malice. He concluded that if Yun was so overconfident, he deserved to die. Sometime after Yun and the others entered the dungeon, an irate Ding Shu arrived at the entrance. A male staff member and a woman inquired about what he was doing. Seething with anger, Ding Shu seized the man's shirt and asked if a team had just entered. The staff member questioned his intentions. This fight followed a frustrating meeting that Ding Shu had with his family elders. When he attempted to inform them that Yun and Chao Ju were the intruders who had raided their home, his father, Ding Hao, dismissed him. He coldly told them not to blame them for his public humiliation, insisting he had no time for such trivial matters. Ding Shu firmly asserted that he recognized their voices from the raid. However, Dinga was skeptical, noting that the intruders were too skilled to be just students, effortlessly evading numerous guards. Ding Yi stated that unless Ding Shu could demonstrate that their strength surpassed that of the guards, he could not back his claim. The family head, Ding Dan, coldly instructed him to leave them to their important affairs. Rejected by his family, Ding Shu had no choice but to take matters into his own hands. At the dungeon entrance, he confronted the staff member once more, declaring with fierce determination that he had to pursue Yun and Chao Ju, who were inside. Inside the dungeon, Yuno was battling a formidable level 20 grid demon crystal giant. This creature, composed of jagged blue crystals, attacked fiercely as Yuno evaded its strikes. An even more formidable foe emerged, a level 30 grid demon crystal eye. A powerful beam of purple energy shot directly at him. Aware of the new monster's immense strength, Yuno braced himself for the impact. From a distance, a terrified Zio shouted Yun's name and activated a support skill. A set of golden shields with angel wings materialized around Yun, shielding him from the attack. This skill, known as Surrounding Shield, provided Yun with a protective barrier boasting 500 durability and 700 defense for 3 minutes. Zioe didn't stop there. He unleashed a motivational shout that enveloped Yun in an aura, enhancing his power. This granted Yun the inspired status, boosting his attack power and speed by 5%. It was clear that Shao was rapidly becoming an excellent support player. Empowered by Zioe's assistance, Yun unleashed a series of powerful attacks on the massive crystal monster. With his Trick Blade skill activated, providing a 70% attack boost, he shattered the formidable level 30 Eye of the Mountain with a powerful final blow. The victory yielded immediate results. Yun has reached level 21 and earned 3 new attribute points. Xiaoji was thrilled, exclaiming in surprise as he leveled up to 11 and received 3 attribute points. Yun explained to his friend that the shield and motivational shout skills came from the books they had taken from the Ding family. He noted that these skills were quite useful and that Zio had successfully learned them. As Yun gazed at the defeated monster's remains, he reflected on how much their teamwork had improved. He recognized that the monsters in this dungeon were relatively high level, but Xiaoji's new support skills had made the battles significantly easier to manage. As they ventured further into the crystal caves of the dungeon, Yun recalled something his teacher had mentioned. A rare monster known as the Obsidian Beast lurked within. He mentioned that defeating it would provide an opportunity to obtain a rare support skill book for gravitational pull. This was a significant opportunity for Yun, as he had already observed the skills Revered Form and Force Field Zone on his Mirror World skill list, recognizing them as essential for his future plans. However, hunting the beast wasn't his sole objective. He gazed across the vast, eerie landscape, aware that this dungeon was rumored to be the site where many formidable adventurers had met their demise. He believed their souls might still linger where they fell, offering him the opportunity to locate and bind powerful undead spirits for his army. He hoped to discover some of these souls nearby. Suddenly, he sensed danger and his eyes widened in alarm. In the canyon below, a massive creature formed from dark, glowing purple rock emerged. It was not alone. A whole group of these elite obsidian beasts was moving together through the Crystal Pillar Canyon. From a high cliff, Yun and Shao observed the unusual scene. Yun noticed that the elite beasts were moving in a large group and had already traveled at least kilometers, much farther than they typically would travel. This unusual, organized behavior led him to a significant conclusion. As he muttered the words, Wanderer type, ha! He recognized the signs of a much larger and more intelligent threat. The behavior of the obsidian beasts reminded Yi of something, prompting him to explain what a wanderer-type monster is. These rare creatures lack a fixed spawn location and roam freely throughout the dungeon map. They are significantly stronger than typical monsters of the same level and can easily defeat unprepared adventurers. In the early days, before people became strong and learned to control dungeons, encountering a wanderer type often resulted in a challenging battle for survival. These creatures were particularly dangerous because they weren't confined to the dungeon. They could roam outside and pose a threat to human towns, resulting in numerous disasters and loss of life. However, Yun understood that this significant risk also carried a substantial reward. The loot dropped by wanderer-type monsters is significantly better than that of ordinary creatures. making them a high-risk, high-reward target for any adventurer daring enough to confront them. Aware of the significant threat posed by the group of obsidian beasts, Yun realized he couldn't afford to be careless. He understood that the monsters were far too powerful to confront directly. He decided to test their abilities first in order to identify any weaknesses. His initial observation revealed a robust defense. The level 30 obsidian crystal beasts possessed a potent healing skill that was constantly active, making them extremely difficult to wear down. Before he could devise a new strategy, the beasts launched their counterattack. Yunno shot a coordinated blast of powerful energy beams known as mana rays. He utilized his speed to navigate through the dense web of attacks, aided by the wing shield that Zoe had summoned for him. However, the monster's attacks were relentless and overwhelming. Eventually, one of the beams struck him, drawing blood and sending a jolt of pain through his back. He realized that even his high speed wasn't sufficient to evade all of them. A quick glance at his health bar revealed the extent of his danger. His health had significantly decreased, leaving him feeling vulnerable. He recognized that his current body's HP and defense were far too low. He realized that without Zio's protective shield, he would have sustained serious injuries from that single blow. Recognizing his weakness, Yun devised a new strategy. He summoned his undead army, a collection of eerie skeletons engulfed in green flames, to fend off the obsidian beasts. However, the power disparity was overwhelming. The elite monsters effortlessly dismantled his summons, and he watched helplessly as the health bars of his skeletons plummeted. Frustration set in as he realized that even his undead army couldn't withstand such formidable foes. He made a clever retreat, observing that the formidable monsters were relatively slow, giving him a bit of time. He was aware that his poor health and low defense were weaknesses that couldn't be remedied quickly. Yun concluded that the only effective way to defeat these creatures was to depend on Zioe's defensive skills. To achieve this, however, Zioe needed to level up. Yun turned to Zioe and outlined the new strategy. They would first battle regular, weaker monsters to gain strength. They relocated to an area with weaker monsters, where Yun identified a group of enemies he had spotted earlier, stating they were ideal for helping Xiaoji level up. In group fights, the shield bearer serves as the primary line of defense. Other classes rely on the shield bearer to absorb damage, allowing them to safely attack from a distance. Following Yun's earlier advice to strive for an S rank, Xiaoji had been diligently allocating all his new stat points to his defense. This unique build. Additionally, the armor stolen from the Ding family guards was now proving its worth. Xiao had successfully established the main defenses of a true shield bearer, enabling him to block attacks from level 20 monsters while sustaining only minor damage. Under Yun's guidance, he began to train earnestly, aiming to master his role. From a short distance away, Yun shouted instructions, correcting his friend's stance and teaching him how to shift his weight. He steadied his body and positioned his shield to effectively absorb an incoming strike. Applying those lessons, Xiao braced himself and successfully blocked a powerful blow from a crystal monster. His eyes sparkled with excitement as he witnessed the clear results of his improved technique for the first time. A system message confirmed his progress. His shield's durability was now decreasing at a significantly slower rate. However, his inexperience was still evident. As Yun cautioned him to be alert for follow-up strikes, the monster swung again, catching Xiao off guard and sending him tumbling to the ground. Before the creature could deliver its final blow, Yun quickly intervened, intercepting the attack and saving him. He quickly transformed the moment into a teaching opportunity, emphasizing the significance of anticipating an enemy's next move. Yun advised him to avoid wide, sweeping motions with his shield, as they created openings. Instead, he recommended using smaller, more precise movements that conserved energy and enabled swift counterattacks. With a reassuring pat on his friend's shoulder, Yun offered one final piece of advice. Stay alert, but keep your body relaxed, only tensing at the moment of impact. This approach allows a shield bearer to react more quickly and endure longer in battle. Their training continued relentlessly. with another encouraging pat on Xiao's armor. Yun encouraged him to continue, always standing by his side for support. He stressed an important principle. A shield-bearer must not only protect himself, but also remain aware of the allies positioned behind him. Upon hearing this, Xiao's eyes narrowed with quiet determination. They brought their training directly into battle, fighting side by side against the dungeon's crystal monsters. Yun reminded his friend of a fundamental truth. When stats are similar, it is skill that determines the victor. Their teamwork proved invaluable. Together, they defeated another monster, and Yun leveled up again, reaching level 22. He felt satisfied with their progress. Xiao could now confront enemies with genuine confidence, making their hunts more efficient and enabling Yun to gain experience at a quicker rate. However, the most significant growth came for Xiahou. Overjoyed, he announced that he had finally reached level 15, an important milestone. At this point, he was ready to learn a powerful new skill from one of the stolen books. With a bright glow, he unveiled the rare skill book for shield armor. This ability would add an outer layer of armor to his shield, significantly enhancing its durability and defense, while scaling with his stats. Upon reaching the required level, Xiao activated the skill, enveloping his summoned shield in a shimmering layer of green armor. His defensive power soared. Yun nodded in approval. The defensive boost from the skill would prove invaluable when they confronted the obsidian beasts once more. Meanwhile, in another part of Crystal Pillar Canyon, 3 members of the school's teaching team observed the same group of elite obsidian beasts that Yun and Xiao Ji had encountered earlier. The teachers frowned, concerned by the large number of elite-level wanderer types assembled. They deemed the creatures too dangerous for the students and agreed that a culling was necessary. However, they understood that the task would not be simple. While normal level 30 monsters posed little threat, elite wanderer types were significantly more dangerous, unpredictable, stronger, and much harder to defeat. Before they could determine their next move, a sudden flare illuminated the sky, a distress signal from a student. Their discussion ended abruptly. Abandoning their search, the teachers hurried toward the source of the signal to rescue the students first. Though they were prepared to leave, their expressions revealed deep concern. The nearby group of wandering monsters weighed heavily on their minds. If any student were to accidentally encounter those creatures, it could easily become a disaster. Before departing, Peng Zhang expressed his concerns and offered to stay behind in case anything went wrong. Lei, the team leader, was on the verge of accepting when Yun and Xiao suddenly appeared. Startling the group, Yun stepped forward with a calm and firm demeanor. He proposed that he and Xiahou remain behind instead. His reasoning was straightforward. If the rescue team faced another group of powerful monsters, having just 2 teachers might not suffice to handle the threat. Meanwhile, the wanderers here weren't especially quick, and more importantly, they hadn't noticed the group yet. Yun assured that he and Xiahou would maintain a safe distance, merely observing, and encouraged the teachers to proceed with their mission without concern. The teachers hesitated, caught between caution and practicality. Ultimately, they agreed, but not without issuing warnings. Lei looked Yun directly in the eye and spoke solemnly. Under no circumstances were they to take action. The monsters were far too dangerous, and if either Yun or Xiao were seen, they wouldn't stand a chance. Another teacher shouted a final desperate warning as they departed, telling Yun that if the beasts found him, there would be no escape. But Yun had no intention of hiding. As soon as the teachers vanished, a confident smile spread across his lips. "It's not me who won't escape," he muttered. "It's them." With that, he initiated his assault on the obsidian beasts. His undead army surged forward, the sound of rattling bones echoing across the field. The skeletons raised their weapons, establishing the first line of defense as the radiant beams from the monsters rained down. This time, however, they weren't alone. Xiao Ji, now a formidable tank, activated both the surround shield and shield armor, amplifying their strength. The outcome was a solid wall of defense. The lethal beams crashed against it. However, the shields remained steadfast, leaving the skeleton warriors unharmed. Yun's eyes sparkled with excitement. With his front line secure, he plunged into the fray. His fists hit with tremendous force, shattering chunks from the crystal bodies of the elite monsters. Each strike sent cracks racing across the glowing shells, causing their health bars to steadily decline. He concentrated on one radiant crystal beast, delivering relentless blows. With a decisive blow, he shattered its core. The monster emitted one last roar before collapsing. Ding! The elite wanderer has been defeated. You gained 12,800 EXP and acquired a radiant crystal core. A pillar of light rose from the corpse, signaling the loot drop. Yoon's lips curled into a satisfied grin. Ding! Level up. Current level 29, now 30. Title earned, Slayer of Crystal Wanderers. The victory filled him with a sense of progress, and he was becoming increasingly comfortable with his support class. Blending Xiao's defensive strength with the unyielding pressure of his undead army. However, despite these improvements, he couldn't escape the reality that he was still significantly weaker than in his past life. His reverse skills enhanced his attack, but the inherently low base stats of a support character hindered him. His raw damage output remained limited, which frustrated him. Nevertheless, the battle offered its rewards, new titles, and valuable loot. Another level up demonstrated just how much experience rare elite monsters could offer. As Yun gazed at the glowing beam of treasure, he clenched his fist in determination. This was progress, and it was only the beginning. He approached the fallen beast, its shattered crystal body faintly glowing. Bending down, he received a notification confirming that he had collected the loot. When he checked the rewards, his eyes widened in surprise. Among them was a formidable weapon, a radiant pink crystal longsword. Ding! Loot acquired, radiant crystal longsword. Attack plus 552. A slow smile spread across his face. This was precisely what he needed. Until now, the weak base attack of his support class had held him back, but this weapon would more than compensate for that. He gripped the sword, which transformed in his hands, lengthening and becoming more menacing as dark purple energy crackled along its edge. With this newfound power, Yun was confident that future battles would be significantly easier. Yet luck wasn't entirely on his side. Another drop appeared, a skill book. But it wasn't the rare gravitational pull skill he had hoped for. Disappointment flashed in his eyes as he realized the drop rate must be quite low. Standing at the edge of the cliff, he longed for better fortune and more chances to hunt elite wanderer beasts. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden explosion of red light in the distance. A dazzling firework-like signal illuminated the sky, instantly capturing his attention. Yun's expression grew serious. This was no ordinary signal. It was the special flare used exclusively by teacher teams, indicating they were in grave danger. The situation became immediately clear. The teachers, responding to what they believed was a student's distress call, instead encountered disaster. They had come across a large assembly of elite wanderer monsters gathered around the entrance of a cave. The scene was breathtaking. Dozens of crystalline beasts encircled the cavern like a vigilant army. None of the teachers could comprehend why so many powerful creatures had congregated in one location. The danger was unmistakable. Soon Yun Xiao, and Yun Yin also arrived at the scene, equally astonished by the sight of the horde. One of the teachers quickly explained that the signal originated from within the cave, the trap in which students must find themselves. However, breaking through this monstrous army was nearly impossible. Despite the collective effort of all the teachers, they still lacked the strength to push their way through. When Yun Sha and Yun Yen arrived, a sense of hope ignited within the group. One of the teachers urgently turned to them, seeking their assistance. Without a moment's pause, Yun Sha stepped forward, asserting, "Of course, saving students is our duty." She raised her hand and a glowing star-shaped sigil materialized above her. A wave of golden light radiated outward as she performed a star-like mystic art. Enveloping both teachers and students, The effect was immediate. Strength surged through their bodies, spirits soared, and their attacks became more precise. Those who recognized the spell were taken aback. It was no ordinary technique, but an epic-level buff. With her allies invigorated, Yunsha unleashed her next move. The air trembled at her command as she exerted gravitational pressure, crushing numerous wandering beasts beneath the invisible force. Simultaneously, Yuan Yin sprang into action. Her lethal spell, Hidden Thorn, shot across the battlefield, piercing a radiant crystal-spiked beast and obliterating it instantly. The sisters' combined strength was formidable. Monsters that had appeared unbreakable just moments before were now crumbling under their relentless assaults. Teachers and students alike watched in awe as the tide shifted before their eyes. One student whispered that with such power they could finally rescue the trapped group. Others praised Yun Sha and Yun Yin, marveling at their remarkable strength. Yun stood quietly, his new sword pulsing with energy as he watched Yun Sha and Yun Yin unleash their devastating power. His eyes sparkled with admiration. He was genuinely impressed. He observed that not only was their equipment of the highest quality, but their skills were exceptional as well. He concluded that, with their assistance, the rescue would succeed effortlessly, even in his absence. With the immediate issue resolved, Yun's focus shifted to the larger mystery at hand. As the rescue team approached the cave, he pondered what could have drawn so many formidable wanderer-type monsters to this particular location. Choosing to investigate on his own, he instructed Xiao Ji to remain with the main group while he moved ahead to scout. Yuna then activated his newly upgraded ability, Mirror Walk, phasing out of reality and into the parallel mirror dimension. He gazed at the peculiar purple landscape, recognizing that the dungeon's crystalline structure provided numerous reflective surfaces, allowing him to access the mirror world at will. However, he was also aware of the limitations of this ability. He still hadn't figured out how to leave the dimension at will. He recalled being ejected when the timer expired during his raid on the Ding family's house, and he was unable to return. As he navigated the mirror version of the cave, gliding past the ethereal, untouchable phantoms of fellow adventurers, he observed something peculiar. The people had phantoms, but the monsters did not. Upon closer inspection, he realized that the bodies of the monsters he had previously killed existed physically in this dimension. This revelation provided him with a crucial understanding of the rules governing his ability. It appeared that, aside from himself, other living beings lacked a physical form in the mirror world. Only their deceased bodies remained. Moving quietly and unnoticed through the mirror world, Yun trailed the ethereal phantoms of the other adventurers into the cave. He quickly identified them as a group of senior students, including one known as Little Z. He concluded that they were likely the ones who had drawn the massive horde of wandering monsters and, feeling overwhelmed, had sent out a distress signal. From his vantage point, he could see they were using the cave's narrow space to defend themselves, which should provide temporary safety. Yet, the primary mystery remained. What could be hidden within the cave that drew so many powerful creatures? He pressed on, venturing deeper into the mirrored version of the cave to explore. The bewildering crystal landscape made navigation challenging, as the endless reflections distorted his sense of direction.